do I go as my name or is it a band name? And I still every day I'm kind of like, do I transition to a band name, and all those decisions, all those things. I'm just like, God, I hate all these decisions. I want to want to just make music and put it out and not have to make decisions. But I asked for it.
Welcome back to a brand new episode of Innersleeve, the podcast taking a behind-the-scenes look at all things music. I'm Cassius Morris, Joe Pacheco joining me on the line as always. What's up, my man?
Not much again, as I always say. My catchphrase is going to be not much.
That's the new merchandise, the new not much t-shirts coming soon.
No, actually, there's a lot of stuff going on, as you'll see throughout the show.
100%. Coming off that May long weekend, we appreciate you guys checking in with us. Real quick, if you enjoyed this episode, make sure to go tap in with us on all social media at SoundMojo. We're on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and also make sure to go check out our merchandise store for all the hot new SoundMojo items. We got phone cases, t-shirts, pillowcases. The list goes on and on. Stay comfortable with that SoundMojo merch. Today's guest on the podcast is none other than Keith Wallen, of course, the guitar player for Breaking Benjamin, singer and solo artist. Now, it was awesome chatting with Keith. He's a really cool guy, and he gave us a ton of insight, especially insight that can be useful for people coming up in the business. So all of our indie artists out there, definitely make sure to catch the interview portion of this episode. Now, over on SoundMojo's YouTube page, we put up a bunch of different polls and community tab questions to find out what you guys want to see and hear on the show, but above all, to find out what you guys really connect with when it comes to music and how you identify with it. And this question was interesting, Joe. So what do we have for this week's poll on SoundMojo?
Yeah, I was just curious to see what people think. Music is so ever pervasive in my life anyway. But I was wondering what people think. Is music is my drug, music is my life, and all that stuff. So as we see here, we got I think it was probably one of our best yet, 215 votes. Obviously, music is my life won 40%, and therapy. That was interesting.
Wow, I thought drug would be bigger, but therapy is actually a wholesome one.
Yeah, and it makes sense too, because I've myself have listened to music just to calm me down or change my thoughts or feel better. Music brings me up, so I definitely see that as a therapy. I just never actually thought of it as therapy. It's just always been there. So for me, it's I probably would vote, let's say, life, right? Because it is,
Yeah.
I've played music, I've played in bands, I've recorded, I've worked with artists, I've worked in the industry, I've worked in radio and all that stuff. So for me, music has been my life.
Well, yeah.
What about for you? What would you vote on something like this?
I actually did vote, and I think I voted life. I'm 99% sure, because similar to you, it sort of engulfs all aspects of your life once it becomes a lifestyle. I mean, Joe and I, this is what we do for work. This is what we do in our spare time. Music pretty much is our lives, and I mean, some of the comments are funny too. I'm reading the one comment: music is that one cute friend that never leaves me alone in my good or bad times. I like that.
Yeah, that's from a SoundMojo artist, AUR, and who does EDM stuff. I liked Blood. That was one I didn't think of.
Music is my blood.
It's my blood. And this one's cool, all of the above and more. So, it's interesting, Ride or Die, Forever Within Reach, ties my past, present, future together. My coherent teacher and placemaker in history. That's
a well thought out answer.
Exactly. Nice and deep. And that's what we like. So anyway, don't forget, we always check the channel. We always put up our community tabs a couple times a week. Not always polls. Sometimes it's just funny memes or, news or events that we're working on. So don't forget to go click and vote.
Hip hop heads rejoice. We have just been gifted the wonderful news of an upcoming biography picture about the life of MF Doom. Now, for anyone who doesn't know of MF Doom and his legacy, highly regarded within the hip-hop community, this guy is pretty much your favorite rapper's favorite rapper. Everyone from Drake to Lil Wayne have put him in their top 5, and Doom was really an eclectic guy when it came to his rhyme schemes and vocabulary. Now, this is going to be interesting, Joe, I think, because the thing about MF Doom is that he's been so enigmatic before his death, of course, through his entire career. This is the one rapper that people know next to nothing about. So for me personally, I think this is going to be really cool.
Also, I know I've always heard of him. I've seen him. I've seen that iconic mask. I've seen the whole thing, but I never really, again, as usual, I never really dug in and went to check out his discography and all that. But I mean, I understand the correlation into, some artists' favorite artists. It's they don't maybe make it into the mainstream, but they influence endless amount of artists, present and future.
That's the thing. It's like certain guitar players, you know, you look at a Robin Trower, like guys like that. He's a guitar player's guitar player, you know, like the
That's
guy
it.
that you're going to know if you're really in it. And I mean, this is going to be fascinating. Doom also, you know, the mystery just really engulfs all aspects of his life. He passed away just over a year ago, and his death wasn't even announced until a month after his passing. And we still don't have a cause of death. So really, we know next to nothing about his life or death. And whatever comes out in this is going to be fascinating. But this is just the tip of the iceberg for upcoming music docs and biopics as well.
Yeah, we have a couple like HBO Max announces later this fall. We have a so far untitled but a Lizzo documentary.
Lizzo already.
I know.
See, that's fascinating to me.
I know. She's been around 2-3 years that we know her, right?
Right.
So
I guess she's probably been working for a while, but
yeah, I would assume as well, because like she's an awesome like flautist and obviously performer as well. You know, like as soon as I heard that song Juice, I was thinking right away. It made me think of Bruno Mars's 24 Karat Gold, whatever. You know, like I just associate those two songs together. But yeah, no. So she's getting her own. Disneyland's they pretty much bought for $30 million the Goodbye Yellow Brick Road for Elton John.
that makes sense.
BMG announces new Mark Bolan and T-Rex documentary.
No kidding.
Have you ever like listened? Because I've always, as a kid, reading articles, magazines, interviews, always heard of T-Rex. Have you ever checked them out?
Basically just the same as you. Like I've heard of them. I've probably, if I was to put on a rock playlist and their biggest song came on, I would probably recognize it. But yeah, definitely a band I've heard of more than their music. Kind of like the New York Dolls. Like you always hear it, but you don't really hear their music.
Well, this is kind of like same thing we said with MF Doom. Like it's like one of those bands that inspire. I mean, they were big too in the day, right? Like Bang a Gong, I think is the most famous song that we know of theirs. But like, so influential, you know, so like it's so everywhere, like Def Leppard, all the big acts just like love this guy, right? So it's gonna be interesting to watch. Like we're gonna be inundated, like with Randy Rhoads that like was just announced recently. Like there's so many cool. Like I predicted this, and like not everybody saw it coming, but I mean like ever since the whole Freddie Mercury and like and now there's Elvis coming soon, right?
Yes,
so we're gonna be Dolly, I think, right? If I'm not mistaken.
I heard of that. Yep.
So it's going to be all kinds of interesting stuff.
Even Led Zeppelin, even though it's not a biopic, I mean, it's a doc. So, I mean, we got tons of cool stuff coming. Evanescence have shocked fans, announcing the sudden and immediate departure of guitarist Jen Majura. Now, this is an interesting story because they moved quick on this, Joe. They announced her firing, and the replacement was announced within days. And the replacement now, we just have word that she's been replaced by Emma Asney of Sick Puppies, which I guess is a well-known group.
Well, I don't know. I've never really heard of them either, but I mean, there's just so many millions of bands out there. It's impossible. But this is interesting because like when you see something like this pop up and so suddenly, as you said, so suddenly the next day they announce or within a day they announce, obviously, you know, must have been some bad blood, or maybe, hopefully, you know, like optimistically, it's like, just like, hey man, I'm tired of this or whatever. It's not working. And they just parted their separate ways. What do you think?
I think it's so hard to gauge, you know, because, you know, as you know from working in this business, like what you see on the stage or in the video is just a small moment in a snapshot, and it's not necessarily indicative of anything that's going on behind the scenes. So, I mean, I think this situation is anyone's guess, Joe. It could be they've been fighting for months, they've been sort of leading up to this point, or, I mean, you know how it gets when bands get heated. Maybe they just had a random one-off fight, and next thing you know, everything flips.
Yeah, that's totally possible. I mean, egos, you don't want to play with someone that you're like pissed off at for like, and then 2 hours, on a stage and then go to like separate tour buses, like a la Kiss, but Kiss, I would give them the benefit of the doubt because they've been together for 40 something years. So it's like, yeah, let me have my own bus, my own privacy kind of thing.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, Evanescence, I mean, to be honest, like I haven't really followed a lot of their careers, so this was obviously news for me, but I mean, I figure it's just more of the same, right? They're just maybe falling out and next.
Yeah, it's not that uncommon in bands, but I mean, definitely, I'm also sort of shocked at the tenure of Evanescence too, because I mean, to be completely frank, I wasn't really aware of them even being fully active at this point.
That's it, you know, like, and this is what I love about like the today's industry, in the sense that like you could think some, or like they're just not on your radar anymore for whatever reason it may be it the algorithm, be it whatever.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're like, oh wow, they're still like, you know, even our guest on this show, Breaking Benjamin, they had fallen off my radar. I didn't even know they were sort of back together and still touring and stuff. So,
and then boom.
that just shows you the landscape is vast, you know, when it comes to music.
The world of composition and music has lost a titan in the game, I think is very safe to say. Legendary composer Vangelis, of course known for his work on Blade Runner and Chariots of Fire, has passed away from heart failure at the age of 79. Now this is a big one, Joe, and for anybody who doesn't know these songs by name, just like, you know, I didn't before this story and then going to listen, you definitely would know any of his compositions just from hearing them.
Yeah, like Chariots of Fire is like the one he's known for most, you know, but like my personal favorite would have to be, well, there's actually, I have an even higher personal favorite, but another one he's known for is the Blade Runner soundtrack. Like, I mean,
yeah.
Not only did that movie set the trend for what a dystopian future looks like and the vibe with all the neon colors that have been copied and inspired many other films. But I mean, like his same thing with his soundtrack, you know, like he just had this very simple way. It's not like when you think of a composer that's gonna, you know, all kinds of like string sections and very busy kind of, you know, like John Williams-esque for those type of movies. Yeah. He actually took what I prefer, a very chilled, very simple, let the movie take its thing and just inspire yourself from the vibe of the movie, you know? My
Less
personal
is more.
favorite. Yeah, exactly. You know, and like my personal favorite is 1492, the soundtrack for 1492, which was Christopher Columbus discovering America. I mean, even though America was there the whole time. But anyway, no, but that movie, I watched the movie once in the theater when it came out, but I must have listened to that soundtrack 1,000 times since then. Wow. Because, and like we were speaking of before, we're on the community tab where music could be your therapy. This is sort of one I remember very often putting on my head, my headphones at night and just letting myself go to sleep and having either the album on loop or the actual theme song on loop, because
nice.
It lifts me up so much. Because what I loved about him is he had this knack for, even if it was orchestral, but he always had synthesizers nicely blended in, you know. And speaking of synthesizers, he was known for the Yamaha CS80 synthesizer, which at the time, you know, was this big, you'll see on screen, I'll put the picture up, was this big, massive synth with legs. He made that synth iconic for Blade Runner, for so many movies, you know, and I mean, that synth today will fetch you easily over $20,000 if you had one in working condition. But it's known as the Vangelis or the Blade Runner synth.
Wow. So a trademark thing for him then.
Yeah, but it was a Yamaha. But I mean, he popularized this thing and made it just like
now
pervasive.
It's his.
So those sounds, you know, that like, okay, it's his, you know. I mean, like he's scored many other movies, right? Like he's scored Antarctica, which is a Japanese film about scientists on an expedition. The Bounty in 1984 with Anthony Hopkins and Mel Gibson. Oliver Stone's Alexander, which is makes sense in being Greek and like Alexander the Great.
For sure.
And El Greco in 2007, a Greek film about the artist himself, you know. So
he stuck to his roots as well with his Greek roots.
Yeah, exactly. You know, like another thing being, you know, addicted to radio when I was like really early, like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. At the time, he had teamed up with John Anderson of Yes.
Oh wow!
Apparently, I didn't even know this, that they had invited him to replace keyboardist Rick Wakeman when he left the band, but he had turned him down. But he ended up working on an album with John Anderson, and what's really freaky is because it has always it was the first time in my life hearing this really trippy kind of music with a cool beat and a lot of synthesizers, but having the verses being samples or like from a TV show, you know, so like a spy kind of show. So for me,
totally different.
Yeah, it just gave you a total different vibe of this song, and then a super catchy chorus with John Anderson's trademark falsetto, high-pitched voice. I mean, those are things like, I mean, I've been listening to this guy for a long time. I mean, I wasn't like super crazy and own every album, but I do own the Blade Runner vinyl.
You did your homework.
Which I had to get. Well, I mean, this is just talking of what I know. I mean, I can only imagine, you know, someone who's really a fan or really documented his stuff could tell us. I'll take solace in the fact that like it wasn't like a drug overdose or a crazy accident. He was
79 too.
It was heart failure, you know. So like, rest in peace, Vangelis. No more. I hope there's like vaults of music that we haven't heard yet, you know. So
I hope so. And hopefully someone else can carry the torch for composers, because I mean, as you say, so much gets ripped off, so much gets remade. It would be great if we could get some more iconic movie scores as well. Now we're going to hop into our interview segment with Keith Wallen. It was a pleasure to chat with Keith. Make sure to go check out his brand new record, This World or the Next, on Apple Music and Spotify. And also make sure to catch Keith on tour. Go to his website. All the links are in the description below to catch everything to do with Keith Wallen. And we'll catch you guys right after this. We're back with another awesome guest right here on Innersleeve. It's a pleasure to be joined by Keith Wallen. Keith, what's going on?
How's it going, boys? How you doing today?
Doing real good. Thanks for joining us from tour. Where are you currently touring right now with the effort?
Yeah, so I'm currently in Evansville, Indiana. I got a couple days off. We're about halfway, a little more than halfway through the tour, and yeah, man, just super grateful to be back touring in general at the moment. Yeah. So yeah, no complaints.
I know you have a lot of tours going on and stuff, but right now you're with Breaking Benjamin, right?
Correct. Yeah,
Okay.
my usual gig. Yeah, we are currently busy, and it's going to be a busy summer. We got another big tour coming up later on with Alice in Chains, and just super stoked for that. Looking forward to it. And like I said, it's just amazing being out here, man. We've all lived some life this last few years. So
it's 5 years condensed into two almost.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just one long shit year.
It's a blur, you know.
So, I mean, what was it like for you getting back into the touring circuit? Because, I mean, I've heard everything from artists saying they're excited to they're anxious. I mean, what was your reaction?
Yeah, sure. I mean, all the above for me. I think, when we kind of came back in the fall last year, it was like, man, definitely some anxiousness there. It's been a long time since we had all, played together. It's like, do I remember how to play the songs? But you kind of shake the rust off, and the muscle memory comes back. And you're like, all right, I remember this. This is awesome. And and then once the initial kind of apprehension goes away, then you're like, all right, you settle right back in. You're like, yes, this is what we've been missing for the last few years, and then you get the excitement, and it's just like I said, I'm incredibly grateful to have a career again. Really,
yeah. It's huge. I mean, so were you guys practicing much together on Zoom or during the pandemic, or even keeping in touch, or was it just like a real break period, a rest period?
Yeah, it was pretty much a big break, I mean, obviously we all keep in touch and call and text and all that stuff. But I mean, we all kind of worked on our own, separate kind of projects, and, anything to just keep your sanity during that whole thing. I mean, it's just like every day for a while there, it was just like nothing but bad news. And so, I'd read online about, people would be, learning how to bake, sourdough bread and all that stuff. And I'm like,
that was the big thing. That was the big thing.
I'm like, all right,
got to do something.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I didn't dive into the whole bread making business, but, I just tried to work on music, write songs, work on some, my solo stuff, and kind of get that going a little bit. And it was fun.
So yeah, you pretty much worked on, I guess I'm assuming, your new album, This World or the Next, right?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, it's I kind of worked on it a lot before the pandemic, officially hit. A lot of it was recorded before that, but then once everything happened, it was the perfect time to kind of take the correct amount of time to kind of really focus on getting the right mixes and everything, and then figuring out the album artwork and all the other stuff that goes along with it. But yeah, you know, I could have probably released it in 2020, but I just, it was such a horrible year. I was like, I don't even want that year just attached to my album.
Yeah.
So I just waited for the next year. I mean, and then 2020 was like pretty horrible, or 2021 was not the greatest either. So, but yeah, it was definitely something that I really devoted my time and focus on a lot. And it really helped me kind of with my mental health, just getting through this, you know, horrible time we've all been through.
How do you find the process of like the artwork, the song titles, just generally putting everything together in a solo effort compared to a group effort? I mean, does it feel like a lot more, or do you have sort of ways to delegate it so it doesn't feel like too much?
That's a great question. I guess the short answer would be I hate it.
That's how you really feel. No.
Yeah, the long diplomatic answer. I mean, look, I love all of it. I mean, I love the process of you know, being creative and just, you know, coming up with cool stuff and you know, kind of like, I don't know, there's not much of a delegation. I mean, I ask, you know, my manager and people close to me, my wife and, you know, friends, you know, what do you think about this? You know, so that kind of helps as far as, you know, filling in the gaps there, other than just having a band to really do it. But I mean, I'm eventually going to have a full band to kind of kick ideas back and forth with. But yeah, I find it harder. Because it's just kind of like, man, I really need to, this is kind of all on my shoulders. I need to kind of make the right decision and just make the decision in general. Sometimes is difficult, you know, and especially, you know, artistic things like that, like an album cover, you know, it's like,
yeah,
lots of times you don't really know it until you see it. You can't really describe some, you know, you're just like, you know, here's, you know, first thing is just thinking of an album title. And then you're like, make something cool with this. Give me 10 different things that this could, you know, spark from, you know, and
then that takes time too, you know.
It all takes time, you know, and you're dealing with a lot of other creative people that, you know, might not see it the same way. And, but fortunately, you know, I've worked with some really incredibly talented people that, kind of get it, you know, they kind of get the vision and they kind of can, you know, see kind of what I'm thinking and what I'm kind of going for and what I'm looking for. So that always helps.
Even like I find the sequencing of the songs sometimes is like, wow, which one comes first? What's second? What's third?
Oh, I know. It's such a hard just decision, you know, just to, you know, even, you know, something that I've kind of like, you know, thought about fairly recently. It was just like, and I thought about this years ago before, you know, kind of putting out solo music. It's like, do I go as my name, or is it a band name? You know, and I still every day I'm kind of like, do I transition to a band name, you know, or, you know, so I don't know, you know, it's all those decisions, all those things. I'm just like, God, I hate all these decisions. I want to just want to just make music and put it out and not have to make decisions. But I asked for it.
The perfect world.
Exactly.
I was wondering, in terms of production for the album, do you do it yourself? You track, you record, mix, master? Like, how did that go?
So again, I surround myself with incredibly talented people that they kind of, you know, lift the weight that I am either unable to or or just, you know, not quite as good as they are. And now some of the things, like there's a song called Crows that I did myself. That's kind of the one that I kind of focused on and produced myself. But my album, my new album, was produced by a good friend of mine named Joe Rickard, who used to play drums in a multitude of bands. He played drums for Red and In Flames at one time, and now he's kind of pivoted his career into production and mixing, he's just amazing. He's just one of those dudes that they're just talented at everything. And I'm just like, man, please stop. So I can
That is something, please.
Yeah. But no, he's great. He's one of my best friends, and we just have a great working relationship. And yeah, it really worked out well. And how the album came about, we tracked it in my house in Tennessee. Nice. He flew out to my house, and we tracked guitars and vocals there. And then I had a tour. This was like right at the beginning of 2020, before the pandemic. We had a tour with Korn. Breaking Benjamin did, and Aaron, our bass player, was gracious enough to lend his talents. Again, I surround myself with talented people, so everybody thinks it's me, but it's really all these other people. But no, he did great. He did the bass, and then Joe, who also produced, he did all the drums. He played all the drums on it as well. So yeah, it's I'm looking forward to making some new music and getting out there and playing some solo shows. Yeah, it's been really a rewarding and absolutely just fun experience. I love everything that we do with Working Band, but it's been such a cool challenge, and it's just been great. I tell people, really, I want to make as much music as I can before I'm too old to play guitar or sing. I don't want to look back when I'm 70 or 80, if I make it that long, and be like, I should have wrote more songs, and so I'm just going for it while I can.
No, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, I was just curious, like, what's your main instrument? I know it's guitar, but is there something else? Like, what did you start with?
I would say my main instrument, I started with guitar, but I feel like my main instrument is my voice. I feel like I am a singer through and through. And I feel like the guitar is basically just the tortilla chip to get the guacamole to the mouth. It is just like that. It's just that. I don't know.
No, that's true. So when you're putting together a body of work like this, you mentioned that the process can be so tough. What's your relationship like with the work after you've completed it? Do you go back and listen often? Do you just put it on the shelf?
That's a good question. Also, at some point, before the release, you go over all the mixes, and you've heard everything a lot. You kind of double check, how do I feel about this? Is every lyric, is all the lyrics, satisfying? Am I saying what I want to say here? And, am I happy with how my voice sounds? All that stuff, and at some point you have to just let it go and just be like, all right, especially once it's out. Once it's out, it's like, all right, it's released into the world. I've let my child go, and hopefully, it grows up and has a happy life. But just got to let it go and hope that people like it and enjoy it. And so I try not to think about it too much after it's out into the world.
Yeah, don't want to stay stuck in it, right?
Totally, and it's plus this, it's a fast moving world, and there's a lot of things that are coming out all the time. So, you gotta kind of just start thinking about, well, what's next,
Yeah, no, 100%. In terms of the groups that you've toured with, so many different groups. You got Alice in Chains coming up. You mentioned Korn. Is there any standout groups or standout tours that you've done? And if so, for any specific reasons?
So we're currently out with Starset, Seether, and Lacey, and this tour has been really, really amazing, and it's cool being out with our buds, especially Starset. We're really good friends with all those guys, and we did a few tours with them, I guess back when the new incarnation of the band was kind of first touring back in 2015. Okay. Our new album, Dark Before Dawn, had just come out. We were kind of first getting out there again, and we did a lot of tours with Starset. And I just remember it just being awesome, and it's cool to kind of come full circle and tour with them again, and just see how much bigger and better their production is, and just both bands have kind of grown since then. So it's just awesome, and so many tours, so many great memories. But yeah, that sticks out. It just feels good to be kind of out there with our buddies and some familiar faces, and an amazing band, also just incredibly talented guys. So, and girls. Yeah, they've got a few new members now too. That's one new kind of thing. I was just like, who are all these people?
Yeah, what's going on?
These new people, but they're so great and talented, and all the new people in the band, they're so sweet and awesome, and so it's been great.
With you, life is so blue. Body's my favorite color. Here in my arms, your head on my shoulder. Stay here forever and hide away from the sun.
We often ask, like, and since you tour pretty extensively, like, is there any places you've played where, like, as a kid, you're like, I want to play there, and like, you know, like bucket list kind of places?
Definitely. Probably the one that there's a couple. There's one that sticks out, Madison Square Garden, of course. That's a big one. And maybe, I don't know, Royal Albert Hall in
Nice.
UK. I think that would be a cool place to play. I see, lots of pictures and videos from other bands playing there, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. I mean, Wembley Arena or Wembley Stadium, that'd be cool. I mean, it's all those great classic Live Aid, videos from the 80s just look so just magic. But yeah, that'd be amazing.
Cool.
How about
Someday,
you growing up?
maybe someday.
Yeah, no, man, I'm sure it's coming. So, like, growing up, what were you listening to, in your room? If I was to walk in on a young Keith, like 14 years old with the record player, what would be spinning on the record player?
So 14-year-old Keith was just obsessed with Metallica.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I had every Metallica album on cassette tape.
Hey.
And I was probably starting to build my CD collection at the time. My first few CDs that I remember I had a little boombox that had a CD player, and I had like a handful of CDs. They were like my prized possession, my first CDs that I owned. And excuse me, let's see, it was Led Zeppelin 4 was one of them, the one with the old man and the sticks on his back. That one. I had Alice in Chains' Dirt.
Sweet. Some good CDs, man.
Yeah, Metallica Black Album. I had Stone Temple Pilots' Core. Yeah, Justice for All. That was one of them. Yeah, I kind of wore those out. I mean, even before that, when I was younger, so I had older brothers, and by the time I was kind of a kid and growing up, they had kind of moved out. They were going to college and everything, but they had kind of left, remnants of their childhood behind, and they had left some cassette tapes behind. And I had a Walkman that I got for Christmas one year that I used to play, listen to tapes, and they had left a couple, bootleg tapes, and one half said Elton John and the other half said Boston.
Wow.
And so I wore that tape out. So I listened to like Elton John and Boston, and then there was another tape that had Journey, the Escape album.
Yeah.
And man, I wore those tapes out. So that was probably my earliest stuff. And then my dad also, he used to listen to Frank Sinatra all the time downstairs, and just he had a record player, so he'd play all those old Frank songs, and so kind of an interesting mix, but yeah, it was cool.
Your father was a crooner, is that correct?
Yeah, he used to sing. He had a kind of a little bit of a singing career back then, a fledgling career. I don't know. I don't think it went too far, but he enough to go to New York and record a few songs there, and
it's pretty good.
Yeah, it was pretty neat. I think he met my mother in New York, who was also just kind of in the entertainment business. I think she was in kind of this kind of traveling dance troupe group thing, kind of like the Rockettes, but not quite like that. But they kind of met at a show, and I don't know, the rest is history. And
did your brothers also play anything, musicians?
No, they did not. They're all kind of musical. They all can kind of, hold a key and sing a little bit. But I think that, I joke around. I'm like, they were the smart ones. They decided not to go into music.
Hey,
But the
man,
safe route.
Yeah,
I
they
feel
did.
you.
They did. You know, they're successful in kind of all things that are not music. You know, I think they're all engineers, and you know, my one brother was a wealth management, you know, money manager for a while. So they kind of went that route, and I went with the artsy music route.
Did your parents give you much sort of advice or tips about the business, or was it something that you just figured out on your own?
Yeah, I kind of just figured that on my own. You know, they gave me the most important thing of all, and that was just love and support. And that's all I needed.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So what would you have told yourself at that age? Maybe if you could go back, like sort of tips or warnings about the business, or maybe things that you wish you would have known earlier.
Oh man, I don't know. I mean, gosh, there's so many things that you know, you learn along the way.
Yeah.
That I don't know if I would necessarily tell my younger self about, other than just, you know, trust your gut. Lots of times I feel like the things that I feel weird about, you know, that was a correct feeling. And so to just kind of trust your gut about things, you know, and people as well, you know, it's like, I feel like, you know, it's good to be a good judge of who a person is. And, you know, if somebody seems kind of sketchy, they probably are, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, other than that, just never give up, believe in yourself. And, you know, if you really, and this sounds so cliche. I mean, I tell people this all the time, no matter what it is they're doing, whether it's music or whatever, it's like, if you really want something, if you really want to do something, you can do it. You really can. I mean, I really believe that with the amount of work and, you know, consistency and persistence and all that stuff, it all mixes into a good recipe of something potentially good happening for you. So
I like that. That's perfect.
I was curious to know because, you know, it's been a while. There's a lot of talk, maybe less now, but like of rock being dead or like no more big rock, like icons and stuff.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
I mean, people are going to say what they're going to say, you know. I mean, we play to a full arena every night almost. So, you know, it's obviously there, you know, obviously there's still
Live to someone.
There's still some blips on the heart machine, you know, it's not dead yet. I mean, obviously you look at all the popular artists on top 40 and all that stuff. There's definitely a lack of rock bands.
That's it.
But you know, people's tastes shift, just like, you know, clothing styles and everything. Think, you know, there's ebbs and flows, things go away, then come back. And all of a sudden things that were horrible in the 90s are back in style all of a sudden. It's just like rock and roll and music styles and disco and everything else. I mean, it all really just gets recycled. I mean, it never really goes away. So
I think like metal or rock, you know, it's sort of like comfortable being underground. It does super well, even though it's not in the mainstream, right? Like you said, you're playing to full crowds, you know, it doesn't, you know, it's like John Mayer, right? Is an example, like where I remember he would be on the radio constantly, always on the radio here. And then now it's been like over a decade. I haven't heard in my city, Montreal, like haven't heard of John Mayer on the radio in ever. But yet he still sells out like one of our biggest arenas, you know?
Yeah, exactly. You know, it's funny. It's an interesting thing to kind of, you know, watch how music has evolved. And I mean, everything from just like, you know, the digital market as opposed to just physical copies of CDs or vinyls. I mean, and now vinyls are kind of, you know, popular again, you know, it's like, I mean, in the early 2000s, you couldn't get a vinyl pressed, you know, it's just like, what?
Yeah.
So now it's just, that's a thing, you know, so you never know what's going to go away and come back or vice versa, you know?
So Keith, obviously here at Watch Mojo, we're well known for our top 10 list. So we decided to pull one of our lists here to see if we could just get your take on it. And this list here is the top 10 greatest nicknames in music. So just to give an example, number 10 was Slow Hand, of course, for Eric Clapton. It could be something like Old Blue Eyes for Frank Sinatra. Who do you think potentially might have the top spots on this list, and or who is your favorite nickname in music?
Yes, so I think this questionnaire would be better if you had if it was multiple choice.
Right. Yeah. Instead of a random.
Yeah. If I had a list to choose from, rather than just manifesting, because guys, I mean, I'm sure I don't know all of them. I mean, Frank Sinatra, Old Blue Eyes, that's a pretty good one.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good one. I mean, Elvis, the king of rock and roll.
There you go. That's good.
100%. I'm thinking Gene Simmons, the Demon, also.
There you go. See, now I hadn't heard that one, but I can't say I listened to much Kiss either. So
it's funny because when I researched the list, I'm like, I knew all of these, but I'm like, yeah, it doesn't come off the top of your head sometimes, like Slim Shady, right? I think of Eminem. I don't think of Slim Shady,
Right.
100%. Right. Number 3 on this list was Prince of Darkness for Ozzy Osbourne, of course.
Oh, that's great. I love that. That's probably my number one. I think that's so amazing and so just, yeah. But I love Ozzy though. So
yeah,
yes, he is the Prince of Darkness.
100%, the Godfather. Number two was the King of Pop, of course, for Michael Jackson, which I think makes a lot of sense.
I thought of that one. Yep, King of Pop.
Yeah.
Sure.
And then number 1, of course, the King, Elvis Presley. So it's hard to beat the King.
So you got the number one.
Right.
A personal favorite of mine here would be The Man in Black, Johnny Cash.
That's a good one. God, that's a good one. I mean,
some legendary stuff.
Yeah, I'm waiting for a good nickname for me.
Yeah, we need to come up with one now.
I better not put that out in the universe, because just awful shit will start coming back.
It'll start manifesting.
So one last thing, we've been starting this new segment where we pin artists against artists or albums against albums. So in your case, I know some of your influences, so I'm like, cherry picked this one for you.
Okay.
All right. So Tears for Fears versus The Police, but wait, not the bands, the albums. Songs from the Big Chair or Synchronicity? Which one?
Oh, man.
What would I know? I knew it.
Man, you did do your homework on that one.
Tough one.
You know what? I'm gonna have to go with Synchronicity.
Wow, right. Nice.
Any
edge? Particular reason? Like what pushes it over the edge?
Just the songwriting, Sting, The Police. I mean, they're just probably my top. One of my favorite bands. I mean, I love Tears for Fears, but I mean, yeah, The Police. I think they take that one.
Yeah, I would probably take The Police as well, but like for me, like Shout is just like such an iconic song, and like so I'm
absolutely,
so I'm just stuck. But like then I think of King of Pain, and I'm like, wow, but I love that song too. It's like that's why I knew it. I said this is going to be a nice challenge.
So tough.
Yeah. Cassius, do you know these albums? You're familiar with them? Or
I'm a lot more familiar with The Police by song title rather than albums. But yeah, definitely The Police always in my shuffle, whether it's sort of random deep cuts or the bigger tracks, of course. So yeah, definitely.
This album, like I don't think they're all deep cuts or they're just all amazing.
I know it's all hits, no shits.
I definitely got to check that out. Well, Keith, we really appreciate your time, man. Is there anything else you want to add, letting people know about the upcoming tours or anything like that?
Yeah, just first and foremost, thank you guys so much for having me.
Thank you.
And for all the fans out there watching, listening, thank you so much for all the support, for supporting both my band Breaking Benjamin and also my solo music. I should be announcing some solo tours here soon for June. It's coming up pretty fast, actually. So should be announcing something soon, and some more stuff in the works. And keep rocking on, and hope to see you out there on tour. And thank y'all so much for all the support.
Awesome, man. Safe travels. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, guys. And thanks again.
Peace. Awesome. Rock on. Take care.
All right. Bye-bye.
I can't get any closer, but I can't
I want to give a huge thank you to Keith Wallen for taking the time to join us on this brand new episode of Innersleeve. And as we said, Joe, so many good tips for indie artists in this one. I mean, this isn't something that you just sort of walk into without a plan, without a strategy. And I think Keith is really showcasing this, transitioning from his group to his solo work.
Yeah, and I know, I love the album. I listened to it a bunch of times already. I love that kind of production, that style, and the fact that the guy can sing like that, play well, and and just write just really good tunes. I really enjoyed it. I hope people check it out. One thing that I remember for me sticking out was because I kind of sort of I'm the same way. It was releasing under your own name kind of thing. He was debating. Do I release under Keith Wallen or come up with an artist name? Even after the interview got off, I stayed on with him and he asked me my opinion too. What do you think of this? And I was like, wow, dude, it's so funny that you mention that because me too, I'm stuck. I don't want to use my name, but I told him, you've already, you're almost at 40,000 monthly listeners on Spotify. I mean, at this point, I wouldn't change it, just keep going and run with it,
If it's not broken, right?
Yeah. And it's and one thing I noticed, he seems like a super humble, hardworking guy, doesn't take anything for granted. Even when we were setting up for the interview, he was telling me, you want me to move anything in the back? Because he was at a hotel somewhere. And it's no, dude, it looks great. It looks like nice, 1950s kind of blue. It was really nice. But no, we had a great chat with him,
It was awesome chatting, and definitely a guy who I think is, this is just the beginning for his solo career. Of course, he has all types of different projects, and we wish him all the best, a safe tour, and hopefully you guys get to go catch him on the road and say hello. Tell him SoundMojo sent you. And we appreciate you guys checking in with us here on Innersleeve, episode number 75. 75 episodes of the show. This is insane. We appreciate all of the support. Hit that like button, leave a comment, but of course subscribe on SoundMojo YouTube channel. We have community tabs, polls almost every single day, music videos almost every single day, tons of content you are not going to want to miss. We're also on social media at SoundMojo, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. On this day in music every day of the week. Joe, am I missing anything?
Well, just one last thing. No, you did it. Impeccable job, but I just wanted to mention that we're on the road to 27K, get us there, man. 27K 27K, and even better if you can get us to 30, we'd really appreciate that.
Road to 30K.
But just continue engaging in the comments. I've really liked the reaction to some of the new artists we've signed up, like Big Melancholy. We've got a couple of interesting things on the way for SoundMojo. And we're even just covering album anniversaries, right? We're just wow, the ideas are there. It's just the time.
It's just we need the 8th and 9th day in the week, as we always joke about.
Yep.
So we'll cultivate that. We appreciate you guys checking in with us here on this brand new episode of Innersleeve. We'll catch you guys next week.